Moonshine Life Group. Wheated Bourbon Recipe. By J.B. Wagonmaker. Wheated. Ingredients. 10 gallons water. 2 gallons backset to lower the pH of the mash. Or sub with 2 more gal water and 15 milliliters lactic acid. 4 teaspoons gypsum, calcium sulfate, lowers the pH a tad and yeast like calcium. 22 pounds cracked corn, washed and drained with warm water in a bucket. Or 16 pounds cornmeal. Cornmeal converts more efficiently due to much smaller crack size. 5 pounds wheat malt, milled. 3 pounds 6-row, mitted or 2-row, or use 8 pounds wheat malt total. A good 8 yeast US 04, US 05, Nottingham, yeast 1272, WLPO 23 Bourbon or similar. 2 to 3 packets, or a healthy starter. A note on yeasts, US 05, Nottingham, WLP 001 and yeast 1272 are very clean fermenting and produce very little esters, make a great whiskey. US 04, WLP 023 Bourbon and many other English-style yeasts produce more fruity esters that will come across in the bourbon. The cuts get trickier and the final yield might be slightly less for these estery English yeasts, but it does add a nice interesting touch to the bourbon. 1. Bring the water, backset and gypsum to a boil in your half-barrel BAP. It takes a while, and helps if you wrap a flame-proof insulating blanket around the pot while it's heating up. I usually quit at 205 F out of impatience, and to avoid boiling the oxygen out of the water. Yeast need oxygen. 2. Turn the heat off and stir in the corn. 3. Wrap it up in extra blankets, even if you have the flame-proof insulator on it. And let it steep cook for several hours or overnight. Note the corn is pasteurized now so nothing funky is gonna grow in there. Helps to stir a few times as the corn will settle. 4. After 3+ hours, I do overnight, remove the blankets, stir well and check temp. When I make this, I start the process at 8 p.m., stir in my corn by 0 p.m. and at 9 a.m. in the morning it's 155 F or so still. So if you wrap it up well it will hold temp just fine. 5. Point a big fan at the BAP and stir a few minutes, it will drop fast, watch it, at 146 F. Stir in the 8 pounds milled malt and wrap it back up tight in blankets. Stir occasionally. 6. After 90 minutes cool to BOF and pitch yeast. A starter is recommended to get a good healthy start to fermentation. Note the typical whiskey mashing process does not involve pasteurization, and this is fine if you're careful about sanitizing equipment and not delaying the cooling from mash to pitch temp. Bacteria thrive in that range between 80 and 150. So, it's important to give the yeast the head start, not the bacteria. For bakers or distillers yeast daily ferment at 80 F, for beer ale yeasts ferment at 65 to 70 F. 7. It will be mostly done in 3 to 4 days. If you leave it to ferment out dry 5 to 7 days the yeast will add more fruitiness, a good thing. Commercial distillers would like to do this but don't have the time, for economical reasons. Some push to 60+ hours to try and get more fruit. We do have the time. But watch it and don't let it go longer than 7 days over. The corn was pasteurized, the 8 pounds malt not, so the bugs will take off on you and feed on the yeast autolysis products and you'll risk ruining a batch of nice bourbon fixins. 8. When it's done, squeeze out the grain through a large mesh grain bag. This isn't as hard as some people make out. 20 minutes and I am done, and will got close to 11 gallons to distill. Let it sit overnight to settle out. The cloudiness is yeast. You don't want to distill that if you can avoid it, but if in a pinch for time it's fine. I am hard pressed to taste any difference when I have run cloudy washes. 9. Rack the clear wash off the top of the settling buckets into your 1/2 brie still. Do a quick stripper run. Pitch 602 of 4s. I run the stripper until the low wines AVG about 30%. You could go a bit longer but you're burning a lot of propane for a little bit of alcohol. Whiskey distilleries typically go to 20% low wines, economics, and the large steam boilers are already running anyway. Save the backset from the stripper for next time. It's sterile, so stores fine in a sterilized bucket. You can also freeze blocks in gallon Ziploc bags. I've done both. 10 Run the low wines slower in a spirit. Run. Pitch another 6 ounces 4s. Cuts and yield. Make your cuts to taste. This recipe gives me 4 quarts at 156% usually, without feints added to the runs, or a higher yield if you have feints to add. Age on toasted and charred all around oak. Don't touch it for 4 months, at that point it's damn good. And only gets better with more time. Thanks to J.B. Wagonmaker. Moonshine Life Recipes Group.